Well, good morning. We're at Ceduna. I know some of these videos are going to come through in a weird order, but it is what it is. I figured I'd give you guys a view of today while a Saab 340 departs over the side of the hill there. Yeah, so it's difficult is keeping these videos in a lineage. I can't tell what makes more sense, is just making videos as I go, or just put them all out in order, but then they're not happening as I'm experiencing things. There goes the sub. Whatever. Anyway, had problems with this little guy. As I was saying through the whole video, is all of the videos I've made, is I think one of the most likely failures or risks to occur to the aeroplane is probably a popped tire, and that's exactly what I experienced last night. Yeah, the nose tire. So when I departed out of Kurabi or wherever it was, Kurabi, I don't know, there was some place I had to land due to weather. Landed, it was all fine, but I think on the takeoff there I picked up a rock on the nose wheel, and she was cooked. So it held enough air for me to land, taxi off the runway and get to right about here, and then she didn't move. So I was very lucky. And Ceduna, luckily enough, had a tube for me. So you know, there's no aviation store here, so you're like, wow dude, where'd you find a tube for an aeroplane in a town of like a few thousand? Well, that would be the John Deere factory just up there, or factory. There's a John Deere dealer here, and one of the lesser known things about these tires, all of these tires, is they're the exact size that fits on ride-on lawnmowers. So I used a little bit of cunning and went to the local John Deere and said, do you have any tubes for an aeroplane? They said no. And I said, do you have any tubes for a ride-on mower? And they're like, yes. I'm like, wow, those are the same things. So yeah, this currently has a John Deere tire tube on it, obviously aviation rated. I just did a quick inspection of it, and decided that it does conform with aviation standards. No, it's the exact same fucking tube, it's just a different brand. Yeah, so it's a solid rim as well, so luckily they had all of the tire changing gear there, so they were able to pop it off, put it on. It was a bit of a fucking battle, because I ran over there, grabbed a rental car. Luckily they had rental cars here and I wasn't in the middle of nowhere. Drove around town, figured out a solution, and put the wheel on this morning. So yeah, a little bit of excitement. Topped up the tank, so I got about 120 litres. This is the most amount of fuel I've carried so far, but it's cool conditions and we're not going to go high, and there's a few other reasons I'll explain in the other video. I thought there might be some value in just quickly showing you a pre-flight of a Rotax engine. I'll try it. Hopefully this wind isn't bad. I'm trying to muffle, I am trying to muffle the microphone. Yeah. So quick pre-flight, this cowl comes off and gives you lots and lots and lots of access. One thing everyone does wrong on a Rotax is they check the coolant, but they'll check the overflow bottle. And this isn't a reservoir, it's an overflow bottle. The Rotax engine has no way of actually drawing coolant from here into the engine. It can't. So the actual only way you can check the coolant is under this cap here. And we can see that bad boy is very, very full. And obviously do make sure this hasn't overfilled if it's gotten hot or anything like that. The biggest weirdness with a Rotax engine, you can see here this wire's kind of, this is the cylinder head temp pro. You can see it's a little bit cooked because it sits really, really close to the exhaust. So if I do see abnormal cylinder head temperatures, I'm already aware that this is a problem, and just the new owner will have to deal with that. That's not a me problem. But if I do all of a sudden see the temperature spike or go full scale deflection, I already know that there's a little bit of a failure happening here, but it's not enough to stop me from operating the aeroplane. Next thing with a Rotax is to do the Rotax Burp. This is a dry sump system. So we take out the little proby thing, the dipstick, and then we wind the prop until you hear the Rotax burble. So just stand behind the prop and stay well clear, grab a blade. I'll put the camera nearby so you can hear the Rotax burble. And so there's no, you still need to have proper propeller safety while spinning this prop, but a Rotax will not start unless you're turning the key. There's no way it can start. It has a digital ignition system, so unless the key's on and the engine's turning, and the prop has to spin more than 300 RPM for it to actually start. So what we're actually doing here is, while we're turning it, is we're actually pressurizing the crankcase. So we're pressurizing the crankcase because it's a dry sump system. It uses the crankcase pressure, which is any leftover, the crankcase always has some kind of pressurization, right? There's leakage past the rings, all of that other stuff. So how this system works is it uses the pressure in the crank to actually push the oil back up into the system. So what I'm actually doing is pressurizing the crank. This is also good because you can feel the compression of the engine, and this will blow any spare oil that's left inside the bottom of the crank back into the oil tank. So I'm trying to let you hear the sound it makes. When it's blown all of the oil that's accumulated. This particular aeroplane needs lots of turns. Sorry for the shaky video. No, that's not a bad curry from last night. There we go. So now I know I've got all of the oil that accumulated overnight in the bottom of the engine, and it's all in the tank. So now I can get an accurate dipstick reading, and they've got a workout. So yeah, I'm showing a little bit halfway down, so it probably needs, with that much oil hanging out, it probably only needs about 100 ml of oil put in, which is pretty normal. I'll continue the rest of the pre-flight, and I'll top that up at the end. I'll just leave the cap off so I don't forget it. Cap will stay off, and I'll put the cap up here so you'll see it. The rest of the pre-flight is pretty simple. Just have a look around, check all of the coolant pipes aren't chafing and about to go. The coolant pump down the bottom there. Have a good look around the engine. This is the oil temperature wire, so just another random wire that's good to inspect and check out. Check all of the spark plugs. Another coolant pipe here. Just want to make sure it hasn't been chafing on anything. Twin induction, obviously. Make sure we didn't leave those caps off. Battery's nice and secure. Yeah. It's a pretty nice engine bay, this one, because you have so much access to literally everything. I really like it for that. You really can see a lot on this engine, which is all good news. think that's pretty much it. I'm just going to top up the oil. The rest of the aircraft, you have a look over it. You still have wings on it, yes. Flight controls still work, yes. Nothing's fallen off. I've got the flight controls locked up at the moment. The biggest thing is really just having a look at the tail. There is some external bits out here. Big push rods. Make sure none of the hardware's fallen out. None of the hardware's fallen out. Little trim tab here, just make sure it hasn't flapped its way off. You can see the size of this rudder. It's just got a monstrous rudder for a little 100 horsepower engine. It's maybe a little bit too strong, but a little VG kit as well. I only just installed this VG kit on it for the owner. I did it actually because I wanted to, but yeah. And the wheel is on. So yeah, if you are a Rotax driver and you're like, fuck, that engine must be cooked, I only need to turn my prop like 5-6 times and it gurgles and bubbles. The reason why this aircraft needs so many more turns is the height of the tank. So if you have a look where the tank is here versus where the engine sump is actually the lowest point on this engine. So the installation actually isn't as per Rotax guidelines. Rotax basically state that this bottle should be below the sump so that the sump can actually gravity drain into this tank. But with this installation, the tank is very, very, very high. So overnight, the oil can accumulate in the bottom of the engine. Just because now the engine is the lowest point, rather than it draining, self-draining over into here. So yeah, she needs a few pumps to get it all out, and the lines are incredibly long as well. The lines that go all the way back down to the engine. Yeah, there's a lot of distance. So the installation isn't perfect, and that's not me, that's these guys that installed it and designed the aeroplane. It's just not quite right, but it does okay. Anyway, I'll leave you guys to it. I'll try and upload this before I depart, and I'll put it up on Discord. Okay, thanks, bye.